ONLYUSEMEBLADE, is what is your stance on black people?
What? I love black people.
Lover.
And you go and say that word. Amazing. Jesus Christ.
Brian Rizzo, born December 3rd, 1983, better known online as ONLYUSEMEBLADE, or simply Blade, is a former Call of Duty commentator turned drunk streamer. He became popular due to him only using the knife mechanic in games, effectively handicapping himself against his opponents. However, after a while of being sober since college, he started to heavily drink in 2015. Brian's channel was later terminated on November 12, 2020. History. Blade often says phrases such as scum diddly-umptress, shot, fire sales, racial slurs, grope, poor, or bitch, and more offensive words while drunk. He and his wife Becky often use the N-word with a hard R to refer to themselves despite being white. As of now, they often do streams where they make fun of people. Now, off script for just a bit, I have to say doing research on Brian Rizzo, aka ONLYUSEMEBLADE, was actually a bit difficult just due to the fact that so many trolls had gone into his Wikitubia and YouTube profiles to not only erase a lot of the data about his past, but to pretty much troll him on some of the things written. For example, there was writings about how his legs had atrophied and been filled with alcohol, about how him and his wife had slaves and stuff like that. So at times it was a bit difficult to disseminate when they were actually trolling and when there was actual real information. I think you probably already know about Blade, and pretty much the way he was best known was due to the fact that he used only the blade when he would play CSGO online. He was good enough to the fact that he could just use only the blade and win quite a few games, which is pretty amazing to anyone who's ever played the game before in their life, as that is a very difficult way to survive. Obviously, he was a guy with a lot of talent, and this is something that is kind of both amazing but also sad to see, because over the years, his entire career degraded to a point where he was little more than a funny drunk for the camera. In fact, most of us know him for the fact that he got taken off of Twitch due to drinking and doing unruly acts. The final act that got him kicked off of Twitch was a point where he actually showed his bare butt on stream while drinking. One of the big things that led on his entire drinking crusade was the fact that he'd always be given all different types of Twitch tips whenever he would take a Jaeger bomb or a Jaeger shot. This seemed to be Blade's drink of choice, if you will, I guess is the best way I can put it. And he would down this stuff by the bottle and reach a point on his streams where he would become so inebriated that he would begin doing very inappropriate things. To make an accumulation of those things in a quick procession, I've put kind of together a clip roll of some of the worst stuff that he's done, and I'm just going to issue a trigger warning and say there's so many things this guy have done that are upsetting that some of these are even hard for me to watch and edit them into the video. For example, throwing a dog or touching women inappropriately. It's pretty disgusting behavior, so just a warning before you watch that and what goes on with Blade's sort of downfall.
Alright, let's go.
Hell yeah.
If those weren't bad enough, there's another video here where his friend who just got out of jail, he slaps him in the back of the head, which makes him obviously react poorly and get punched in the face.
What happened? Okay, let's sit down. Let's sit down.
Dog, we play a whole different game. I'm not no like no, you know what I mean?
I'm sorry. I was in the wrong for that. I was in the wrong for that, dude. I'm so sorry, dude. I'm so sorry, dude. I'm so sorry, man. I'm so sorry, dude. I love you, dude. I'm so sorry, dude.
The saddest aspect of all of this and all this downfall in this one is the fact that he does not really seem to completely understand how bad his actions are when he is inebriated. And the next day he would come back on stream and make an apology, but it would also be while he was inebriated, and it really wouldn't make much sense, and he would sometimes completely gloat about what he did and not apologize whatsoever.
Got a lot of love to give. So if some random ugly whore bitch gets groped, she gets groped. Accept it. You should be welcome, whore. You should be welcome, whore. Seriously, you should be honored that would ever grope you.
Blade's drinking at this point was getting so bad that even his own friends tried to have an intervention for him, and there was even a live stream of them doing so. I really don't think this is an appropriate thing to do unless the person actually signs some sort of waiver like they do in intervention series on A&E, and I think this is a little bit better handled by one of his friends, Keemstar, who, although not a lot of people give him credit for this, took the time and the chance to get Blade not only a lot of help, he moved him into a nice house, had him meet his future wife, and even took care of him as far as trying to get him into rehab. And a lot of people don't give King credit for this, but he actually had a lot of care for this guy, and they had a lot of business partnerships they were going to start together that never quite worked out because sadly, Blade began to fall deeper and deeper into his alcoholism. For a while after this, Blade's alcoholism went back and forth between trying to stay sober, going to rehab, and trying to get help. He was finally pretty cleaned up when he went on tour with Ice Poseidon on the very famous RV tour they did in IRL streaming. During this time, he began to fall apart quite a bit again, to the point that he was drinking almost every night that he was on the RV. It was also during this time that he was accused of many allegations of sexual abuse and even rape, so many of which I cannot go into because some of these court cases are still being handed out and dealt with. On top of that, he reached a point where he had to even have an interview with Chris Hansen, in which he was questioned about many of these very odd situations he was in, where he would go into a room and be pulling up his pants when he came out, and the person in there accused him of being sexually abused by him, and it's a very sketchy situation that is somewhere within the gray area, but nonetheless is inappropriate no matter which way you look at it, because he shouldn't be accosting people in this state, and he shouldn't be even getting into any kind of intimate situation like this while inebriated. It leaves so many questions up in the air, and while court cases are still being settled, I think this reflects very poorly on his behavior while under the influence of alcohol. On top of it, the Chris Hansen aspect never really got to the bottom of what happened, which tends to be the trend of any Chris Hansen video, where he uses everything for a spiel and to grift, but never actually gets anybody put in jail, like in Onisan's case. Sadly, this wouldn't be the end of Blade's downfall, and as his RV trip and his IRL streams continued, more and more inappropriate things began to happen, such as kissing the wife of another fan and ignoring the many signs of liver damage due to his alcoholism, such as holes showing up in his legs, starting to lose teeth, receiving diabetes from an overuse of sugar in his system from the alcohol, and many more breakdowns in his overall system. It finally reached a paramount when he wrecked the guitar of a fellow creator on the trip.
Grab the Jaeger on the table. Hurry up, you guys gotta head out of town. Prono Captain is driving there now.
You understand me?
The winds will not flip the RV. Everything is okay. Run.
For Blade, this was finally the end of his RV tour, and he was actually kicked off the entire trip for Ice Poseidon in his IRL streams. This left him sent home and abandoned by the team.
Go home, Blade.
Don't go home.
You don't.
You had a legendary stream today. You're not going home.
Not really, dude. We have montage. My son is.
Alright, we're turning off the stream and we're gonna have their bonds. Alright? Don't you want?
Yeah, I did.
This was an incredibly sad thing to watch go down online, and showed the complete breakdown of a man who was once great within his league of CSGO streamers fall to one of the lowest points in his career and life. You have a man here who started at the top of his game, playing CSGO online and being so good at it that he had to use the weakest weapon just to make himself competitive. And it's an incredible skill. I think a lot of people want to diss this guy all the time for his drinking, but we got to remember where he started from and the amount of skill he had at the beginning. Sadly, I guess this is one of the cases where a lot of attention came too fast, or a lot of exposure came too fast and broke this guy down. On top of it, the ill will of trolls getting him to drink on stream did not help, and with a history of alcoholism, this was a very bad mix that left to a downfall that was not only disgraceful, disgusting, but also abusive to many other people within his life. Recently, the news about Blade has been that he got married to a woman named Becky, and they're expecting their first child. My hope for Blade is that he can finally get his life together, go to rehab, stop the alcoholism, and start to live life as an adult. He could still come back and still make something of himself by settling these court cases and admitting to what he's done wrong in the IRL streaming world. And also, stop the drinking online, don't do any more drunk streams, don't take trolls' money just to do Jaeger shots. It's not worth it, and it's time to get everything together. This is a man with a lot of skill and a lot of natural talent, and he still has a chance to come back if he'll get himself some help and his life in order. What do you guys think about Blade and some of his notorious past? I know some of the things I mentioned were very sketchy and out there, but sadly, none of the cases have actually been settled in court and no charges have been pressed. Chris Hansen got little to nothing done in the case of Blade, and we really didn't find out any legal aspects of what happened or the evidence involved. I'd like to really see what played out in some of these cases in which he's been accused of rape and abuse, but at the same time, I'd also like to see them pressed charges legally within court, so if there is something he needs to face and reparations he needs to have done, then he does them in the legal manner and is punished properly. Until next time, I've been the Inksmith, and I'll talk to you again real soon.